College Football Playoff Semifinals, here we come. Welcome into Got It Covered. Giovanni Heater alongside Raza Umarani with you. And we're coming to you on game day as we get set for the Fiesta Bowl tonight out in Glendale, Arizona. It's Ole Miss, it's Miami. Then tomorrow night on Friday, 7:30 kick in the Peach Bowl down in Atlanta. Of course, Indiana and Oregon, a rematch. Raza, it's been a very interesting playoffs up to this point. I do not think that when we got into this thing, these are what we thought we had in teams for the semifinal. But here we are, and there's storylines galore. Across the board, you're going to have a first-time national champion no matter what happens as a head coach in the college football playoff.
Yeah, and a program that's either never won a championship or hasn't done it in a long time. And Miami would be the most recent one, and that was way back in 2001 when I was an infant and you were just a thought, let alone a human being. So it's been a minute for one of these programs. It's a guaranteed good story no matter what. I mean, in terms of like the villain is Miami, but only because they're Miami. But we've reached a point in the story where, like, if Miami were to win the national championship, it wouldn't piss as many people off as like if the Cowboys won a national championship, or even if like Notre Dame won a national championship, for example, because like at a certain point, you kind of are like, oh, you got to tip your cap to like Beck and Cristobal. You know, they kind of beat the narratives and everything else. Indiana, Ole Miss obviously speak for themselves, and Oregon's never done it before. They have a chance to completely rewrite the story there, and Phil Knight will cash out as a even bigger bajillionaire than he already is. So it's a really interesting semifinal. These aren't the teams we expected, and it's going to be absolutely cinematic from start to finish, because it has been already. And if the semis pick up where the quarterfinals left off, you're not going to want to leave the couch the next two nights.
All right, so let's start with the matchup tonight. Miami against Ole Miss. Miami's been really impressive, and it's been predominantly their defensive effort so far in this playoff. Went to College Station, took down Texas A&M in an absolute slugfest, 10-3, the final score in that ball game. And then you're an underdog against Ohio State, and you take care of business. And really, I thought if you watch that game, Raza, start to finish, Miami came into that matchup against Ohio State saying, we're going to take the fight to them. They were dominant in the trenches on both the offensive and defensive line. And I thought from start to finish in that ball game, Miami pretty much dominated the game. Ohio State had some moments where they were able to make some plays and what have you, but it felt like it was Miami's game to lose throughout, and it was because they took the punch right to OSU.
Yeah, I mean, they went up 7-0 early, and then when Ohio State stringing together some plays, trying to get some offensive momentum going, bang, pick six. They totally jump the screen, take it back the other way. And from 14-0, you're like, man, you give this Miami team a 14-point lead where the defense can just pin their ears back and let their defensive front go after you. That is hard to overcome. And the closest Ohio State got, it was obviously when it was a 3-point game, 17-14. They did miss a field goal, but like, even if it was tied 17-17, you probably would have been like, this still feels like it's Miami's ball game here. That's just the way that it went, because they were more prepared, more physical, obviously, at the point of attack, took advantage of a beat up and honestly subpar Ohio State offensive line. You said it all year. You were like, if there's anything that's going to bring down, we know Ohio State has these great wide receivers, but like, who's running the football? And even if they could run the football, it's like that pass protection is just not all there. And Julian saying still a little green. So Miami's winning games the way that we expected them to win games, because you could take it back to our preview before the A&M game where I just like kind of said, I think Miami's defensive front is the difference in so many of these ball games, because the margin of error is much larger when your defense is playing as well as it is. The pressure is not all on Carson Beck to do all X, Y, and Z. You look at a team like, look at Ole Miss, right? Ole Miss's defense is good, but they were not able to beat Georgia if Trinidad Chambliss didn't play the greatest game an Ole Miss quarterback has ever played, ever. I mean, maybe.
It was unreal.
Miami doesn't need Carson Beck to be Superman. Their defense is doing the heavy lifting for him. That's how you win down the stretch. Kind of like, last year, Ohio State with Will Howard wasn't doing anything crazy, but their defense was playing so well against like Texas and Notre Dame in the national championship. That's all that was really necessary. So it's a winning formula that they have. There's a reason why they're favored in this game. There's a reason why they're like only behind Indiana, I think, favored to win the national championship is because people realize that this team is just really good. That's not to downplay their offense either. Daniels, Fletcher, Tony, those guys are studs, but it's really the defensive line and honestly their secondary that's playing really well too. That's making the big difference.
You had touched on it with Ole Miss. First of all, congrats if you're an Ole Miss fan. It's the biggest win in program history, quite literally, to win the Sugar Bowl against Georgia, punch a ticket to the College Football Playoff Semifinal. The year they've had, the storylines with Lane Kiffin's departure and saying, if you're not on the plane, you're not coming with me, and then changing his mind, allowing some coaches to come back on the offensive side and help Pete Golding and company get this thing going in the playoffs. And I just felt like everybody, including ourselves, had written Ole Miss off because of the off the field drama. And crazily enough, it's those types of things that can actually get a locker room to buy in on a whole nother level that you probably didn't even know was there, because we had thought, oh, well, the players are going to go with him too. Trinidad's gone. You know, that was kind of the algorithm. And all of a sudden, that's not the case. Durham's coming back at running back. Trinidad's coming back at quarterback. And next thing you know, Ole Miss is like going to keep this thing humming. Imagine if they win a national championship. We'll see like how this documentary ends, but it's already a story in itself, right? I was just so impressed with, first of all, they were down in that game to Georgia. Like they trailed at halftime, right? And it did feel like Georgia was playing like the better team. And then situations are happening like early. Ole Miss is chasing points by going for 2 on their first touchdown. And I just sat there and was like, man, that's like first game as a head coach type of a decision, right? Where we're gonna chase the points early, and you just kind of sat there and you're like, yep, Golding's showing that he's a first-time head coach, and this is probably gonna go Georgia's way. And it was a fun story while it lasted, what have you. And to Ole Miss's credit, they completely turned it on. Defense was solid in the second half. Stetson Bennett still made some awesome plays, but did I just say Stetson Bennett? Gunnar Stockton, my bad. Gunnar Stockton still made some awesome plays, but Trinidad was on another level. So I'll beg you this question, Raza. Is it sustainable? Can you do that again? Because you were looking at Johnny Manziel, Cam Newton, like vintage, point back to that game, magical type of performance out of Trinidad Chambliss. Can you do it again? And can you do it against what I would argue is a better defense than Georgia has to offer, especially with the pressure that Miami has generated all year long, with the best 1-2 punch at defensive end in all of college football?
I think, yes, you can do it again, because I do think Trinidad's actually a really special talent. I mean, we were going into the year and we were like, oh, Austin Simmons is really good. And like, yeah, they have Trinidad Chambliss, but like, is he going to play? And then
he's a D2 product.
Exactly. So Simmons gets hurt and Chambliss comes in, and he's one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the sport. He doesn't turn the ball over, and you're seeing a game like he had against Georgia where you're like, oh my God, that looks like the best quarterback in the country, quite frankly. So, I mean, granted, you do have Fernando Mendoza playing tomorrow night, but still, like, Mendoza is a talent in a way that's different in the way that Trinidad plays the position. Trinidad plays, like you said, like a Johnny or like a Mahomes, or your classic scramble around. And he was doing the offhand flips and crazy throws up the sideline. I mean, he's making play after play that's difficult to sustain, I will say, but I like to believe that stuff kind of carries over. So I think he definitely can do it. Although you said it, I think this is a better defense that he's facing. I think if he's able to get a little bit more help in the run game, they need a big game out of K'Wan Lacey here. They have everything it takes to win.
I just did that. Just need to. I did that again. I said Durham, like the LSU tailback. I meant K'Wan Lacey.
Oh, I was, because I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's okay. We're all scatterbrained because the college football schedule is awful.
Right.
In terms of when, like, why is the transfer portal open when the season's still going on? Why are coaches getting hired and fired and leaving and taking people with them, but then sending them back? Like, I don't know. That's a conversation for a different time. But, Ole Miss's receivers, namely, honestly, was Daquan Wright with 2 huge drops in that game. Like, if they're able to be the better team fundamentally, Chambliss doesn't turn the ball over. They got to look at what Ohio State did and be like, we can't do that. We can't be predictable. We got to catch them off schedule, got to catch them off guard and stay on our type of timing. I think they can do it. So I don't know that Chambliss will be this crazy, Mahomes type of quarterback against this Miami defense, but I also don't think he needs to be. I just think Ole Miss needs to play their game and play it soundly.
Looking at the other side of this thing can be pretty short and sweet here. Indiana was phenomenal in the Rose Bowl. I mean, flawless.
They were.
Just pure dominance across the board from start to finish. I was also glad that it didn't turn into a sloppy, muddy mess, and we did get a little bit.
The sun came out.
Sun came out. We didn't get the same picturesque scenes that we typically get with the Rose Bowl, but can't happen every year, right? The field stayed in pretty perfect condition considering what they were battling throughout the week and even on game day. So kudos to everyone involved there. Field looked great, and Indiana dominated against Alabama. They're really, really impressive, man. I mean, it seriously is one of the greatest stories in the history of American sports. If they win it all, it might be one of the greatest, in American sports. Definitely the greatest in college football.
Yeah.
So I don't know that there's a ton to unpack with Indiana yet. Oregon, though, they looked pretty darn dominant against Texas Tech. I mean, to not give up a point in that ball game, I was super impressed with Oregon's defense. They're so young on the defensive side, and their young players are making big plays, particularly in their secondary. So that was impressive. And then, Dante Moore and company on offense doing enough to get it done. I don't think anything jumped off the page in that Texas Tech game that was super impressive. But look, defense wins championships. And if your young defense is playing like that against a Texas Tech team that a lot of people were high on throughout the year, Oregon's going to be able to play with anybody. We got a serious rematch here between Oregon and Indiana. Remember, the Hoosiers went to Autzen, really should have won by more than they did if Fernando Mendoza doesn't throw a pick six and let Oregon back into that ball game. Does Oregon have a shot? I mean, you look at the betting lines here. Oregon 3.5-point underdogs. One, are you surprised it's not more? And then Miami is a 3-point favorite. We're 3.5-point favorites earlier in the day today, but now 3-point favorites against Ole Miss. Does Oregon have a shot? That's how I'm going to frame it to you.
I think obviously they have a shot, but
by the way, not a single 5-star on that Indiana roster. No former 5 stars. No, it's unreal.
Which is crazy and then you got Oregon, who's like all 5 stars, and
right,
Alabama, who's like all 5 stars as well, and they beat Ohio State, who's all 5. So like that's their last. Think about it. Their last 3 wins potentially could have be Oregon, Alabama, and Ohio State. Like that's remarkable.
Yeah, and then what? Miami in the Natty,
or Ole Miss, which I mean, so
regardless, Miami. I'm just saying, if you look at it 20 years from now and look at the brands that they beat to do it, Miami would stick out a little more.
That's true. That is true. But they're playing at a different level because they just are on a different level. It's really fascinating to watch in real time. To answer if Oregon has a shot, the answer is definitely yes. I mean, Dante Moore is playing good ball. Did get a little beat up in that game against Texas Tech, but that was like 10 days ago now at this point.
Yeah, which needs to change.
Probably. It should be every weekend.
So let's do it like the NFL playoffs. I understand you can't because you don't want to compete with the NFL like this weekend. I mean, we get 8 straight days of sports. If you combine college basketball and college football, it's beautiful. But there's got to be a way where we're not waiting 10 days for a college football game.
There should be. It's also a lot of travel for Oregon, man. They had to go to Miami, then back. Now Atlanta. Like that's a lot of travel for.
I mean, but if you don't play in the Rose Bowl, like where are you going? I mean, Texas is the closest you could go.
Yeah, I mean, or the Fiesta Bowl, right? Which is like they're probably like, damn, we got the short end of the stick here because we could have just gone down the line.
I forgot about
now
the
they got to go.
Yep.
So, a lot of travel for them. But point being, yeah, they've definitely got a shot. Dante Moore's playing good ball. You mentioned their defense; they're running the ball pretty well. They've just run the ball really efficiently. If you can get 4 or 5 yards a chunk just over and over and over again, you're going to win ball games. But you're not going to get that against this Indiana defensive front because they shut them down in that first game. For me, the question of Oregon having a shot does not come down to matchups or who they've got or how well Dante Moore is playing or does Mendoza make a mistake, whatever. You just got to take me back to the first game and think, okay, does this Oregon coaching staff learn from their mistakes? Or maybe not their mistakes, but their shortcomings? Because Indiana stifled Oregon in a way that nobody else really did this year. I know Iowa almost got them, but that was just like, bad weather, Iowa, whatever. It was like pouring rain that day. Indiana was the team that actually took it to Oregon this year. Nobody else really did that.
Right.
So is Oregon going to learn from that and be like, maybe we got to do this differently in the run game so we don't run the ball for, completely just get completely blanked on the ground? Does Dante Moore have this, that, or the other in him to try and push the ball down the field against these really solid Indiana defensive backs? I mean, I remember I said earlier that I was like, oh, the player to watch in the playoff is Ellis Robinson for Georgia. It's been a corner, but it's not been Ellis Robinson. It's been D'Angelo Pons. The dude is like all over the place. Even if you go back, like I said, to the Ohio State game where you're locking up guys like Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate. So Pons against the Corey Moore will be interesting to watch. If I had to give my X factor in this game for Oregon, it would probably be Kenyon Sadiq. Like, he's just a mismatch. He's a matchup nightmare for any team that they play. But Indiana's got really good linebacker play as well. At every level of the defense, they're so soundly coached that, like you said, doesn't matter that they don't have a 5-star high school recruit from Texas who's 6'4", 240 playing linebacker. They don't need that because their guys are extremely soundly coached. So they've got a shot if they just learn from where they came up short in that first matchup. If they're able to exploit Indiana in ways we haven't really seen them be exploited yet. I mean, Ohio State came the closest to beating. I guess Penn State did too, but realistically, Ohio State came the closest to beating them. They kind of just got in their own way and couldn't convert on these short yardage situations because Indiana's so sound up front. So I think you got to have a big game out of Dante Moore and you got to have a big game out of Kenyon Sadiq. If they're able to hook up, if he goes out there, has 7 catches, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, and maybe. But then there's the other side of the ball. You got to account for Fernando. Yeah, you have a shot, but Indiana is just so good. You're going to have to show it to me.
You know who deserves some love is Brandon Finney Jr. The freshman's unbelievable.
Dude, he had the pick 6 against Mendoza in their first game.
And he had 2 picks and a fumble recovery. Yeah, 2 picks and a fumble recovery.
Yeah.
Unreal.
He's a true freshman.
True freshman. He'll play on Sunday. He'll play on Sunday.
He will definitely play on Sunday. I'm not sure if he was a 5-star or not, but that kid's crazy good.
Yeah.
Crazy good. He's long, very long. So again, you can match up with a guy like Surratt.
He doesn't physically look like a freshman.
No. But how many do? Remember when Jeremiah Smith came in last year? Everybody was like, that guy's 18, or even Ryan Williams. Although that's a fall off that will be studied for generations. So Oregon has the bodies to match up here, but so did Bama, and they made Bama look silly. So we'll see.
All right, let's pick these things. Who do you got? Who do you got tonight? Ole Miss and Miami, who's advancing to the national championship game, Raza?
In a matchup like this, it's really easy to just point and be like, I got to take the defense that I trust more. And the defense I trust more is Miami.
Agreed.
I thought going into this thing, if Miami could get past Ohio State, they would have a real shot to win it because you're playing Georgia, who's susceptible-ish on defense. You were be playing Ole Miss, who is very good, don't get me wrong, but you said it earlier, this Miami defense might be the best in the country. At least the defensive line is the best in the country. And they have the 2 best edge rushers, the best pass rushing duo in the country. So I think Miami wins, but I do think it's very close. The 3.5 point spread is about where I would make it as well. At 3.5, I would take Mississippi in the points.
Now it's 3.
So then I would just probably take Miami on the money line, to be honest with you. But or maybe I just wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. But I think it's close. I think it's lower scoring. I think you don't see to your point earlier, I don't think you see the offensive explosion you saw out of Ole Miss. Probably a 23-20 Miami victory at the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, the over-under on this game between Miami and Ole Miss currently is 52.5. I think that just sounds free to me if you play the under. Even 27-24 gets you to 51 points. Like, I just don't see a world. I understand Ole Miss scores, but Miami's defense, I'm going to take Miami. I do it with extreme caution, taking Miami, because listen, man, there is an unconscious belief in that locker room right now for Ole Miss that you can't even describe, because it's such an unprecedented situation that we've never seen before. You mix belief, right? Nothing to lose type of belief. We're talking like same type of stuff you get like in a different way, but when a head coach gets fired and we say those are like the most dangerous teams to play because they have nothing
Yeah,
to lose.
nothing to lose. Yeah.
Right. That's kind of how I look at this situation with Ole Miss right now. So, you have this unconscious belief, nothing to lose mentality with that team, on top of the fact that you have a quarterback playing incredible football right now, playing like the best quarterback in the country. He's playing better than the Heisman quarterback right now, which is, or at least on par with him. The
Yeah.
plays that he's making, nobody else is making right now. Fernando doesn't have to make them because the system, Charlie Becker's open by 6 yards. But so I do it with a lot of extreme caution, but I do think that defense wins these things. Defense, they say defense plays on the road, right? Defense travels. I just find Miami's defense week to week to be so much more sustainable. And they had a dip at one point in the season, lost to SMU, lost to Louisville. But the way they're playing right now, I find that to be so much more sustainable than these incredible plays that Ole Miss is making and Trinidad Chambliss is making to win them ball games. And so for that, I say Miami's going to win the ball game. And because of that, I think if you're making a bet on this, we're not, but if you're making a bet on this game, I think the under is there for the taking if you're picking Miami, because I don't think there's a world where Miami wins the game and the score goes over 52.5. If that's the kind of game you get, give me Ole Miss. But I'm going to take the under, and I'm going to take Miami to win the ball game. I'm surprised we're on the same parallel there. I would not be shocked if Ole Miss won tonight.
I guess I think it's close.
I would be thrilled. Oregon, Indiana. I'll go first real quick and get it out of the way. I think Indiana wins. I'm surprised the number is where it's at, to be honest. I understand it's the playoffs, and but we also know that we've watched a lot of college football, man, and even in the semifinals, these games are not always necessarily close. No, I think Indiana wins by a touchdown.
Yeah, it's hard to beat a team twice.
Ridiculous. I just
think about the rematches that have gone the other way this in the playoffs, right? Ole Miss beat Georgia. That was a flip in the regular season. Now each of these, now the Oregon Indiana game, this is a rematch. So
yeah, but
Alabama Oklahoma went the other way, which it did in the regular season.
But nobody else has Kurt Signetti. Did you see him looking at Pat McAfee and just straight up? I mean, come on, dude. He's a psychopath.
He is.
Yeah. And we haven't seen Dan Lanning win the big one. We haven't seen it.
That's true. It's crazy that Mendoza is the way that he is and Signetti is the way that he is, and they just work that well together.
You talk about personalities. It's going to make that documentary so much better someday.
It's Indiana's championship to lose.
Yep.
At this point, with Ohio State and Georgia gone, they're clearly the best team in the field. Not that none of these teams can give them a run, and not that none of these teams can win it. They're obviously good enough to win it, but it's Indiana's title to lose. They are the best team in the country. They have the best player in the country, according to the Heisman voters. They have the best head coach maybe left in this field. At least I would say. So I'll take Indiana to get it done. Wouldn't shock me if Oregon won the game. I know you think the spread should be bigger. I think it's fine the way that it is. But I just can't pick against Indiana because they've made it impossible for me to do so. Impossible.
They haven't lost. They're the only team in college football that hasn't lost a game.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Signetti is what? 25-2 in his tenure at Indiana, something like that. So I'm not going to pick against them. It's just not happening.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be a fun one. Can't wait for it. You can find us, as always, on social media at Got It Covered FB. You can find Raza. Where can you find you? At Raza Umarani.
Yeah, on everything. That's
beautiful. You can find me at Giovanni Heater on Instagram and at GeoHeater on Twitter. Enjoy the games tonight. Be on the lookout because we're also going to have our NFL playoffs prediction video coming out today. So enjoy the ball game. Raza, any final words for you before we let the people go?
I honestly haven't been using Twitter that much lately, and that's just because the app sucks. And my closing statement is I miss when Twitter was called Twitter. Those were the days. Ever since the acquisition and the brand change and everything, the app is just but I'll be on there, especially as like the playoffs keep going, everything like that. And yeah, enjoy the games. It'll be fun. We'll catch you with NFL stuff, and then we'll catch you next week with a Natty preview, which we're both predicting to be Indiana, Miami. So we'll talk to you when it's Oregon, Ole Miss.
Exactly. We got you covered.